Hi, guys. Welcome to Living Life at Life View podcast. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Garcia, and today I am joined by a faculty member of our undergraduate studies, Mr. Charlie Farmer. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to shine a light a little bit more into our undergraduate, but also the intricacies and the specialness and the ruby that you are. So I'm really excited to go and dive deep in. So tell me what courses you're teaching right now at Life University.
Right now, this quarter, we're doing critical thinking in transitional reading and transitional English.
Okay, so everything in English itself.
Yeah.
Okay. What inspired you to become an English professor?
Years ago, when I was an undergrad, my first job was a student assistant in the English department. And so I just fell in love with being around people who love books and love to read and love to write. And so once I got sort of immersed in that, I never wanted to leave the English department or the college campus. And so I love reading, love writing, anything with the written word. And so it just seems like a great place to be.
That's awesome. Did you do your undergrad in English?
I did. So I started out as a journalism major and then fell under the spell of poetry and novels and went that way instead.
I love that. Where'd you go to school?
I started at Macon State and then transferred to Georgia College in Milledgeville. And so I got my undergrad and graduate degree there.
Nice. And graduate degrees. You have a master's as well?
Yes.
That's awesome. In
English.
English.
Yeah, so I did my master's thesis on the lineage between Walt Whitman, Woody Guthrie, and Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, okay, how long have you been at Life University?
5 years.
5 years. How's been your experience?
It's been great. I mean, I've been to other schools, and I know this is a live podcast, but really this is my favorite place I've been. So just colleague-wise, student-wise, it's been fantastic.
That's awesome. And we're a smaller institution. Yeah. Tell me, did you have an opportunity to teach other levels besides college, or have you ever always stayed around?
Just college. Okay. So I didn't think I could handle anyone below a college age. Now I have a 4-year-old daughter, and so now I understand. Yeah, little people can be fantastic too, but it's always from college.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that you've been at other colleges. Tell me a little bit about those changes. Why Life University has been your favorite place?
I think it's the students. It's like the international pool. I mean, I think we have this sense of there is another side of the world, right? But I think here you realize that we do. And I think that's a great chance for students to meet people from all walks of life. You can quickly burn away those prejudices and those preconceived notions and those expectations of people when you meet them.
I love that. That's really cool. This is as a person that came in straight from a different country when I first got here, and I remember my very first class was actually an English class because I came in as a transfer of undergrad. First class ever was an English class. I know exactly the room where it was. It was down this hallway at the very end towards Socrates Cafe. I was terrified, but for some reason, it was a terrified that I was like, oh, this is kind of homey. This is nice. I still miss my language and my people and my cooking, but I can make this at home. Yeah. So to hear you say that also from that faculty perspective, you see that, you experience that with the students is really refreshing.
I just think the students coming here are so lucky for that, especially if they're from Middle Georgia, or I say I'm from North Georgia, if they're from Georgia or the South, and just instantly immersed in culture they didn't expect to be face to face with. You know, maybe the humanities don't matter as much. It's sort of, if you can't count it, it doesn't count kind of thing. I think my big job here is to, how can I make people understand that, writing is important, reading is still important. And that's sort of the frustration that I have sometimes.
Okay. I love that. And I see, with the beautifulness of growth and change and AI and all these things, I'm very passionate about it. This is such an important piece of our development, and to see now kids kind of growing up in a different scenario where there's different words that like, I have no idea how you write this because it's all automatically fixed when I make the mistake. It's really interesting, and for me this is very special to my heart because my mom is an English teacher. So to see that shift and that change. Tell me, you've been a professor for over 5 years, I assume.
I've been teaching since 2001.
Okay, so you've seen a huge shift and change. So tell me a little bit about what those pros that you've seen, but also those things that you wish that will be better shift.
I think for me, like the big pro is that I've seen in just essays across the board, whether it be in what we consider student writing or professional essays, is sort of the embrace of the first person. I know that was a no-no to bring in the first person to your essays, and I totally encourage that because I think if you can bring in first-person experience, anecdotes, examples, testimonies, I think that makes the writing that much better, and you're much more invested in it. In terms of what gets by thumbs down, obviously, like AI has been like the big issue. The whole push towards like a frictionless existence, where if it's difficult, I can just get an app for that and it takes care of it, whether it's essay writing or making friends, dating, ordering food, anything like that. I mean, I think a life well lived requires friction and difficulty and rigor, and we're getting away from that, and that's really frustrating.
That's a beautiful way to say that. I love that. I like that friction just develop change.
It does. I mean,
grow and change.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very shy and but to be thrown out of my comfort zone is essential, right? I think that's how we all grow.
Exactly.
If we just are constantly greeted by a head nod and a yes and an A, I don't think that's going to be. Yeah. No one's going to want to employ you or marry you or hang out with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm just in awe. I love the way that you just phrased that and said that. With that, I understand that you're also writing a book.
I do. So
tell me a little bit more.
So I said I majored in journalism and didn't do that anymore, but I write that way. Write for some music magazines. Music's my big thing too. And writing a book about DB Records, which was this label that was started in 1978 in Atlanta by Danny Beard, who owns a record store called Wax and Facts. It's in Little 5 Points. He was a student in Athens in the 70s and graduated, came back to Atlanta in 76 and opened Wax and Facts. But would go back to Athens to see bands, and he came across the band the B-52s, which were brand new at the time. Okay. And was blown away and decided to put out their first record. And of course, the rest, for those unfamiliar with B-52s, they were a big deal. I mean, when I was a kid, my first exposure to them was the song Love Shack. That was kind of their comeback, and that was a huge song. Yeah. But they'd had this sort of prehistory. So he put out their single Rock Lobster, and then he put out some records by Pylon, A Love Tractor, Swimming Pool Cues, The Windbreakers, so a ton of other bands. But the label was important because it was the first sort of like DIY, do-it-yourself, punk new wave label from the South. And I think that sort of set the template for a lot of labels to follow.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and so I really I think he deserves some exposure. I think the bands have gotten their heyday, but I really think Danny has done just an amazing job, and I want to make sure that, his story is told. And the bands too, because I mean, a lot of them aren't household names these days, but I think talking about them sort of recalibrates what we consider success. I think right now we consider success being like enormous wealth or just omnipresence, right? You're there. You're just famous for being there. But these people were famous. They were successful because they made music and they expressed themselves on their own. They did it themselves. They toured themselves. And they put out records by themselves. I think that's really neat.
That's really awesome. Yeah. That's a special story for sure. Yeah. And I think that will bring, shining a light into that story will also, and exposing it, hopefully to the right hands and to the right reader, it'll also encourage them that there's also a different pathway.
Yeah, I mean, again, they aren't household names, but they inspire people to also be in bands. It doesn't mean you have to be successful. It means that you're doing something on your own. I remember being like 18 and going to, or maybe 19, going to Atlanta, and the only shows I'd been to were like big rock and roll shows at like Lakewood Amphitheater. So even if you're like front row, there's this like 50 feet gulf between you and the band. And I remember going to a show at this place called the Echo Lounge. It's no longer there. And I was in the crowd. The show's about to start, and there's this guy in the crowd who just looks super cool. And the band points at him and is like, "Hey, get up on stage." And he gets up on stage behind the drum set, starts playing. I thought, like, that's amazing. Like, see, I was like right there. So I mean, that was just like licensed to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, like that kind of experience made me think like I could do it too. I could be in the band. Yeah. And so I was, and we put out records and toured and did the same thing. But like, I'm not a huge music success, but like, I did what I wanted to do, and I did it. So
And you loved it.
yeah, got to see the country and tour and write songs, and people put them out, and I made it my own way, just like these other bands did too.
That's amazing. What you play?
Guitar and sing.
That's amazing. Okay. So how do you involve, if any way, your passion for music into your classroom, if any way?
Sometimes I'll bring in like writing samples because the final project for my one-on-one class is to write a profile essay about a family member. My dad died in 2020, and I thought I knew him, but I think I realized I didn't know him as well as I should have. And so for my students, I want them to interview someone in their family they'd like to get to know. And so one of the things I'll do is bring in some of my profiles from musicians, and they can use those as like templates.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really special. That's a beautiful. I kind of want to go to that at least final project. That sounds really
I mean, the
interesting.
last quarters were just fantastic. Like I was trying to read them, and I was tearing up. It's like, this is incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was so shy to ask my parents about anything. How'd you meet? Just kind of questions you're kind of embarrassed to ask
Yeah.
that you want to know, and then they're gone and you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. Wow. I just got goosebumps. That's really great. That's really, really great. Tell me a little bit about what you wish to see in the next few quarters or years in your career at Life University.
I want my literature classes to fill up. I mean, those are always it's kind of a hassle to get enrollment in those to where they make. But last quarter we had novels of social change, and that was the best class I've had maybe ever. And that was 15 strong. We read some novels, and it was just a great time. But it was really inspired. I love those kids so much, and so I want that to. I want that forever.
I want that forever.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I'm projecting that for you forever, and just filling up those seats. I got you. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for everything that you're bringing into the students. And thank you for doing such an extraordinary idea for that final one-on-one class, which if you're an undergrad and you haven't taken any courses, you got to have a one-on-one English, correct?
I do.
So that's such a beautiful way to kind of wrap things around. So thank you for doing something like that. It's really, really inspiring. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode of Living Life at Life U. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your quarter.
Thank you so
And
much.
we'll see you around.
I appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Bye.